For the Detroit Lions, the 2024 season definitely did not go the way they expected it to. But for the 2025 season, I've got news for everybody. There is an angry monster that is about to wreak havoc and be a nightmare for the NFL. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. Folks, I'm going to tell you something right now. Obviously, 2025 hasn't really even started yet as far as the football season is concerned. We're just now getting into the NFL offseason. Teams are pretty much making their last final acquisitions as far as coaching hires. Some teams have already started releasing certain players. So the 2025 season has not yet really officially started, but it's on the verge of starting. Now, what do we know? We already know that the Lions in 2025, they're going to be a different team. But while that's not necessarily going to be the case in terms of roster composition, there might be a few new players here and there. But for the most part, it's going to be the same exact players. Definitely going to be mostly of the same starters. And for me, rather what's going to be different about this team is how they're going to play. Now, when I say that, I'm going to tell you this right now. To a certain extent, I'm not expecting that with the defense. I expect that pretty much Shepard is going to follow the same formula, the same kind of scheme for the most part that Glenn had it as. Because, well, number one, Shepard is a direct disciple of Glenn. He was trained, he was, mentored, coached by Glenn. And on top of that, the fact that this is Shepard's first chance of getting any sort of coordinating experience, I would like to think that he's not going to try and veer too far off of what Glenn was working with or what he was working from. So for me, I'm not expecting much difference from how the defense is going to play. I still expect it's probably going to be a 4-2-5 defensive front. Might have some variant fronts here and there, but I still expect a very heavy man coverage scheme. That's what I'm expecting. But when it comes to the offense, there is a very large and pronounced question mark. And it's due to the Lions' new offensive coordinator, John Morton. Now, some people might think that it's not as big of a question mark as I would like to put it out there to be, but I think it actually is. Now, I've spoken about Morton in the past, and I've identified him as a brilliant game strateger, game planner, and that's because of the interactions he's had in the past with other top offensive minds like John Gruden, Jim Harbaugh, and Sean Payton. And due to his very extensive and deep offensive background and knowledge of different offensive schemes and, play styles, I believe that's going to give the Lions an impressive edge over most other teams in the NFL. And it is that edge that we're going to talk about today as to why I think the Lions are this angry monster, particularly on offense, that is about to make a very insane, bold statement. Now, why exactly am I saying that? Well, first we have to consider what Morton is coming into with this season. As the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, he has got by far the most complete offense he has ever coached. And it is arguable that the Lions have the best offense in the NFL. I mean, you could try and make an argument for maybe another team or two, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a better offense than what the Lions have. Now, Morton knows what he has in this offense to a certain degree because, well, he's already been here in the past. He was here back in 2022. A lot of the same pieces that were on this offense back then are still here. But we also know that things have changed. But what exactly is John Morton bringing to the table that Lions fans already know about him? Well, here's what we know. John Morton has already stated that he fully intends to exploit this offensive cast of players to the max. But for him, that exploitation, that using of that offense, it all starts with one player, and it's quarterback Jared Goff. Per John Morton, this is what he said. He said, it's all about the players, and it starts with the QB, like I said. It takes a little time when you first put an offense in. I've done this many times, and it is all predicated on who that quarterback is. And I think one of the smartest things that we did with Ben, he's talking about, Benedict Johnson, when he took over for the play calling, is we brought Jared in. And then what do you really like? And then we went from that. So, in essence, what John Morton is saying there is that, hey, this offense is going to be continued to be predicated and built and focused around Jared Goff. Now, I know for some people, as soon as they hear that, they're instantly dismayed. But I'm trying to get you guys to understand something here. Because while some people might think that that means the Lions' offense is all of a sudden just going to be this pass-heavy offense and it's going to use the freaking run game very sparingly, very little, if none at all, I'm telling you that's not going to happen. I can guarantee you that's not going to happen. The reason why is, well, actually there's two reasons. The first reason has to do with John Morton himself. Morton himself stated, I'm going to read this quote right off the page here. He said, it's just my job to continue the vision of how Dan, and he's talking about Dan Campbell, wants things. We'll tinker with things here and there, and we'll see how we can make it better. Okay, let me explain what that means right there. His job is to take whatever vision offensively Dan Campbell has. Well, here's one thing we ought to know. Dan Campbell's offensive envisionment of his offense involves a strong running game. And let me tell you something right now. That's not going away anytime soon. You first and foremost don't invest a first-round draft pick in Jahmyr Gibbs to all of a sudden abandon that. And you sure as hell don't give out a brand new contract to David Montgomery to all of a sudden have that sit on the shelf as well. So for those that think we're all of a sudden just going to become a pass-happy team, it's not going to happen. We're still going to pass the ball a lot, but we're also going to run the ball a lot. So that's one thing. But here's the other reason why the Lions are not all of a sudden going to just abandon the run to just become a pass-happy team. The reason why is because what did Morton himself say? He said, we are going to base what we want in this offense off of what the quarterback wants, what the quarterback likes. Well, what's one thing we know about Jared Goff? Jared Goff loves play action. Play action is by far the best thing he is at. He is one of the best quarterbacks ever in terms of play action. In fact, I would say he is the best quarterback in the NFL when it comes to play action. I'm going to put some numbers up on the screen just to show you the progression of how well he has been over the last 3 years. So since Benedict Johnson as I call him, was in charge of play calling until now. When you take a look at those numbers, you're going to get a very, very clear picture. Never in the last 3 years has Jared Goff ranked outside of the top 10 when it comes to completion percentage, passing yards, pass average per throw, touchdown passes, or passer rating. And that's in terms of play action passing. And on top of that, Jared Goff has not finished lower than 5th in terms of passer rating off of play action passing, nor lower than 5th in terms of passing yards off of play action passing. The guy is an absolute damn wizard when it comes to freaking play action passing. In fact, what I'm going to do now, just so that way you guys have seen it all in terms on that Excel spreadsheet that I had up. Man, my tongue was getting twisted there. I'm going to show you exactly how well Jared Goff has been in terms of play action since 2022 till now. Take a look at these numbers. Since 2022, Jared Goff has completed almost 72% of his passes off of play action. A little over 5,000 yards have been off of play action. Almost 10 an average per pop. 41 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He's got a 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio off of freaking play action throws with a 121 passer rating. You are not going to find a better quarterback in terms of that time frame, in terms of those numbers. It's absolutely ridiculous how damn good he is at it. And again, as I just showed you with those numbers, take a look at this. I'm going to show you what Goff's total stats have been since 2022. So not just the play action stats. When you take a look at Goff's total numbers since 2022, he's ranked fourth in passing completion percentage, number 1 in passing yards, ranked 4th in pass average per throw, number 1 in passing touchdowns, and ranked 3rd in passer rating. What you're going to see is some percentages that are next to those numbers. Those percentages identify the percentage amount of how, in the same time frame I just had, how much of those numbers are contributed to him being in play action. Think about that, folks. 43% of his passing touchdowns have come off of play action. Almost 40% of his passing yards have come off of play action. 30% of his freaking pass attempts have come off of play action. And almost 32% of his pass completions have come off of play action. There is absolutely no way in hell, if Jared Goff is going to continue to have a strong play action game, that we're all of a sudden going to abandon the run. No chance in hell of that happening. So for those that are worried that John Morton is all of a sudden just going to make Jared Goff throw the ball 50 times a game, 60 times a game, we're not going to run the ball, you be crazy. There ain't no way that's going to happen. So, but how does that play in to this bold statement that I'm talking about here? Well, let's take a look at another quote here by John Morton. Morton followed up with this whole conversation about the quarterback and Jared Goff, and he specifically brought this in. I quote, "Back in the day when we got Drew Brees, when I was at the Saints, this is how we would call the plays and everything. But Drew, when he was at the Chargers at the time, there were certain plays that he loved. And we even ended up calling it the way he did, as opposed to, okay, you're going to learn our terminology, because when he heard that play, he knew exactly how to play fast. So that was the process. Okay, let's find out what Jared is really good at and what he loves, and let's kind of build off that." Okay, so why does that quote, along with everything else I presented, give me this idea that this angry monster that is the Detroit Lions offense is about to make a bold statement in 2025? Let me show you. I've already showed you part of it, but let me show you the rest of it. First and foremost, let's take a look at Goff's numbers for 2024. In 2024, Goff was absolutely probably a top 3 quarterback. You can argue all you want, but the numbers don't lie. Goff was ranked 2nd in pass completion percentage, 2nd in passing yards, 2nd in yards per attempt, 3rd in yards per completion, 4th in passing touchdowns. He was ranked 2nd in passer rating, and he was ranked 6th in QBR. You take a look at all those numbers that I have up on the screen, freaking Goff did not finish outside of the top 5, save one category, and only finished out of the top 4 out of 2. You're talking about a guy that if you do the average, he's a top 3 quarterback. There's no way around it. When 4 of the categories that you have, you're ranked the 2nd best quarterback statistically, you a top 3 quarterback. I don't give a damn what you say. So, when you think about those rankings alone, you are looking at a quarterback that with the original version in John Morton should be better, mind you, than the kind of, how do I put this? John Morton is Coca-Cola to where freaking Benedict Johnson was Diet Coke. You're now getting a guy who was there, who pretty much was the mastermind who helped Benedict Johnson work with Jared Goff to make the offense what it was. Well, think about this. John Morton has had direct influence with multiple quarterbacks in getting the best out of them. He just talked about how he worked with Drew Brees in 2006, one of Drew Brees' best seasons, and the first season after he came back from that massive shoulder injury. He worked with freaking Josh McCown in New York with the Jets and gave him his best statistical career ever as a quarterback. Then he's worked in Denver with freaking Bo Nix and also with Russell Wilson. And, here's the thing. You take a look at it, everywhere that John Morton has gone, he has done exceedingly well with the quarterbacks he's been placed to work with. Now, I'm going to say this, though. Everywhere he's gone, he has not had a prior relationship with the quarterback as a starter. Think about it. He didn't have a prior working relationship with Drew Brees before he came to the Saints. He didn't have a prior relationship with Josh McCown as a starting quarterback before he was with the Jets. Didn't have a prior working relationship with Russell Wilson or with Bo Nix. So what's different? The difference is he does have one with Jared Goff. And not just Jared Goff. He also has prior working relationships with a number of guys that are still on that offense. So he's coming into a situation where it's like, hey, I'm not starting over from scratch. I've actually got working relationships with people that are already in this building. That's massive. And it's especially massive when you got a quarterback like Jared Goff, who's a top 5 quarterback in my opinion, who's proven that he can win. At that point now, you're already well ahead of the ball curve for a guy that's coming into a brand new situation, doesn't know what the hell's going on, doesn't know who the hell he's getting in to work with. That's not the case with John Morton. So that right there already gives me a high volume of confidence that, we're about to see something ridiculously impressive for 2025. But there's more to it than just that. John Morton, as I've said before, is an excellent game planner. And on top of that, we also know this. Jared Goff had a significant amount of influence in helping to choose who the next OC was going to be. Obviously, he didn't have the final say. But Dan Campbell did say that Goff was going to have a lot of say in it, but not the final say. So think about it. John Morton and Goff already had a working relationship prior to this. The fact that Goff signed off on it ought to tell you that him and Morton already have got a good relationship, because what they're trying to do is to, at the very least, have the same kind of relationship that Goff had with Johnson. But I'm expecting it's going to go much further than that. And here's the reason why. Let me all just show you something here. I've talked about this before, and I've kind of briefly hinted at it with this episode. Sorry, I just bumped my camera there. Not something I typically do, but these papers are just being absolutely troublesome as hell. Let me put something out here for you. Like I said, when Morton was back here in 2022, there was a lot of guys that he is still familiar with that are with the current roster right now. But let's think about this. Guys that are no longer here that were when he was here. Jamal Williams isn't here anymore. DeAndre Swift isn't here anymore. There's a completely brand new renovated backfield because now we have vastly upgraded to getting Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Second, when freaking Morton was here, we had TJ Hawkinson at tight end. Hard to believe that, but we still did at 2022 before halfway through the season before we traded him to the Vikings. But after that, we had to go with Shane Zylstra and Brock Wright. Well, we still have Brock Wright. I'm not so sure if we have Zylstra anymore, but I know we have Brock Wright for certain. But we upgraded and got Sam Laporta, who I believe is exponentially better than Hawkinson. And now, think about this. We also have better receivers than what he had in terms of 2022. Because think about it. In 2022, that was Amon-Ra St. Brown's breakout season. Because in 2021, he was a rookie. It wasn't until 2022 until he officially broke out. So there was that. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is a better receiver than what he was in 2022. No ifs, ands, or buts about that one. But also, in 2022, J-Mo was a rookie who was out for like 3/4 of the year recovering from an ACL injury, and we only got to see him for like a couple of plays, if that. Now take a look at what J-Mo just did this year. He just had his first 1,000-yard season receiving. He's gone from being this gadget player, this home run player, to now he is a actual verified good number 2 wide receiver. And on top of that, we no longer have Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds was a fine wide receiver number 3, but in 2022, he was filling more for wide receiver 2 because J-Mo wasn't able to do it. Well, now, J-Mo's wide receiver number 2 and Tim Patrick has come in, and I believe Tim Patrick is a better version than whatever Josh Reynolds could have been for us. So if you think about it, across the board, most of the skill positions that John Morton had in 2022 have been upgraded exponentially. They're not only exponentially better in terms of talent, but those that were there that weren't able to play, they have grown in experience. Same thing goes for Goff. Goff now has got more experience than what he had in 2022. He's much more confident. He's much more assured of himself and where he is in this offense and in how to run the offense. So what I'm trying to get at here is that John Morton is coming into a situation where he does know quite a lot about the players that he's working with and obviously the coaching staff, but he's also getting ready to work with guys that are exponential weapons that he didn't have access to in 2022, either because we hadn't drafted them yet or because we couldn't use them yet, as was the case with J-Mo. So when you think about all that and what I just said with Goff, as far as play action, running the ball, how well Goff played in 2022, you factor in how well Jahmyr Gibbs played, how well all the others played, I want to post these numbers just real quick. Take a look at these numbers that the Lions offense did, mind you, with a distracted at best Benedict Johnson. Because again, we now know that Johnson was looking to put together a coaching staff well before the end of the season. He was already talking to people. So with a distracted Johnson, this is what our offense put up in 2024. We were number 1 in points, 4th all-time, matter of fact. We were 2nd in yards put up on offense, 6th all-time, matter of fact. We had also the number 1 pass completion percentage in the NFL, 2nd all-time, in fact. And we had the 2nd best passer rating in the NFL, which was 10th all-time, in fact. And look at all those other rankings. I see 2, 2, 4, 6, 6, 2, 1, 3, 6, 7. Think about that, folks. Just think about that and look at that list. This offense was a top 10 offense in every single damn category, but largely top 5. So think about it. You have that with a distracted, at best, offensive coordinator who's looking towards the future, looking to his own coaching staff for his new job that he already knows is coming. Imagine what in the hell John Morton with David Shaw is going to be able to do with this offensive group of players that can literally do just about anything. Because think about it. Monty can catch out of the backfield. Gibbs can catch out of the backfield. We both know they can run. Laporta, also a great pass catcher. J-Mo just had his first 1,000-yard season. Freaking Amon-Ra St. Brown had his 3rd in a row. I mean, dude, you take a look at all of this evidence. This is where I say the Lions are about to make their bold statement. And I know for people that have been holding on, wondering, okay, when the hell is he going to get to the bold statement? Here's the bold statement. I believe that this is what's going to happen. I think the Lions are going to have an offense in 2025 that will make prior offenses look like damn child's play. And what offenses am I specifically talking about? I'm talking about the 1999 Rams, which we've already beaten, the 2007 Patriots, and the 2013 Broncos. I am going to predict this, and then I'm going to back it up because I know some people are going to think I'm crazy when I say this. I predict that Goff is going to have a 5,000 passing yard season, 70-plus completion percentage rate, greater than or equal to 40 passing touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, with a greater than or equal to 120 pass-plus rating. I believe that Gibbs is going to maintain having over 1,200 rushing yards, and he's going to maintain having 15-plus touchdowns. I also believe that Monty's going to crack 1,000 yards again, and also have 15 touchdowns. I believe that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to maintain having a 1,000-yard receiving season with 10 touchdowns. I believe that J-Mo is going to have another 1,000-yard receiving season with 10 touchdowns or more. And finally, I believe that Laporta is going to get his first 1,000-yard receiving season with 10 touchdowns or more. Now, I know for a fact there are people that are going to think I'm crazy. But hear me out. Goff getting to 5,000 yards is not that big of a stretch. You want to know why? Because this last year, 2024, he was only 371 yards short of getting to 5,000 yards. Oh, you want to know why that's not that hard to imagine? Because 3 games in 2024, Goff had less than 200 passing yards. And so think about this. He was also only 3 touchdowns short of 40. So it's more than feasible. Why? Because Goff averaged about 272 passing yards per game. So if you take out the passing yards that he had that were less than 200, which I think was what, like 199, 145, and 85 passing yards, and you were to replace them with the 272 times 3, that would give you a freaking total of 429 yards than what he actually had. Well, wait a minute here. 429 minus 387 would put Goff at 5,016 passing yards. Had he actually gotten at least 272 passing yards in those 3 games that he didn't even crack 200 yards. Funny how, when you do the math, Goff could have gotten to 5,016 yards, and Goff wears number 16. I find that kind of ironic. Now, don't you? So, there's that. Goff can easily get to 5,000 passing yards. He can easily get to 40 passing touchdowns because he almost damn well did it this year. Number 2, Montgomery. Montgomery's already cracked 1,000 yards in the past. But remember, Monty missed 3 games this year due to the injury he had at the end of the season. With 775 total rushing yards, and he was averaging about 55 yards a game, if you were to give him back those 3 games that he missed, on average, if he could have just played those games, he would have come very damn well close to getting to 1,000. But I guarantee you this. Had Dan Campbell known he was close, he'd have just handed the ball off until he got to 1,000. So again, no reason to believe that couldn't happen either. Now, Laporta, on the other hand, is going to be probably the hardest one I have to try and spin a little bit. But it's not impossible. First and foremost, if you take a look at Laporta's numbers, Laporta had, let me see here if I found this correctly, Laporta had, I think, like 700-something freaking receiving yards. Okay. If you think about it, 9 of the 17 games that Laporta had this season, he only played 16, mind you, but there were 17 games. 9 of the 16 games that he played in, Laporta had less than 50 receiving yards. Of those 9 games, 7 of them he had less than 45. Well, 45 is what he was averaging per game in terms of receiving yards. So if Laporta would have just gotten 45 yards, let's just say he got 45 yards in theory, in the 7 games that he had less than that, that's 315 yards. Plus, again, the 1 he missed due to injury, that now brings you up to a grand total of 360 yards. Those 7 games where he had less than 45 yards, you want to know what he had? He had a grand total of 170. So 360 versus 170, that's 190 yards difference more than what he had. He would have been up to 916 yards had he just met his average per game and also didn't miss the 1 game due to injury. So again, that is not that far off from 1,000. My whole point is this. I truly believe that John Morton, with Goff and all of these offensive players, which are coming into their prime, because think about it, Jamo's going to be his 3rd year as a starter, or 3rd year as an actual functional player. Amon-Ra St. Brown is in his prime. Goff is in his prime. Laporta's going to be in his 3rd year. Gibbs is going to be in his 3rd year. You've got all these players that are hitting the ground running. Morton is coming in, and he's got all of this wealth of knowledge. He's already got this experience of working with these players before and the coaching staff for the most part. I'm telling you this right now. I would not at all be surprised. In fact, I believe that the 2025 Lions are about to be the next video game real-life offense. That's what I think is that bold statement. I think the Lions are going to become just like what the Rams were in 99, just like what the Patriots were in 07, just like what the freaking Broncos were in 2013. They were these real-life, honest-to-God, Madden video game offenses. I think the Lions in 2025 are about to be the next version of that. Call me crazy, but it's not that far out of the realm of possibility. It truly ain't. But anyway, I'm going to end this episode. I believe I've presented my evidence, so I just want to say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon. Also want to encourage y'all, please, to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Share anywhere and everywhere you possibly can. And whether or not this is the first time you're watching me, you guys have been watching me forever and a day, I hope y'all enjoyed the content. Hope y'all got something out of it. Hope y'all got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.